Three homages. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami.
Good morning and welcome to Reno Buddhist Center. Lovely to see you all this morning. A special welcome to those who are visiting RBC for the first time. We will begin with our Shoshinge chant and incense offering. And for those who are new to the temple, our Shoshinge is chanted from the book in the seat back pocket in front of you, and it looks like this. And how we chant is in vertical columns from left to right in the traditional Japanese way. There's also a translation at the bottom, or you can just sit and listen and absorb the beautiful chanting because it's all healing, wonderful energy. So that's the most important thing. Chanting is a core practice of our tradition, and we just observe this beautiful energy and feel it. That's the most important thing. Shinran Shonin, our founder, who's the monk at the top there on our founder's wall, wrote the Shoshinge over 800 years ago in Japan. And this writing compresses his experiences and insights into one long poem of Pure Land Buddhism. He is certainly with us today. as we chant this together. And in it, we realize the principles that guide our lives. Shinran wants us to know that life is more than a simple journey from cradle to grave. We are part of a long, unbroken thread of life, which extends deep into the past, and we are responsible for extending that thread into the future. During our chanting, you are welcome to come up and offer incense at our Oshoko altar here. And if you would like to come up in pairs, that would be good. And incense offering is the cleansing of the mind and body before receiving the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. And for those of you at home, you're welcome to offer incense at your home altars. And either incense or food or water or your gratitude, it's all good. Also in our hondo, we have two other altars. We have the Kannon altar over there. And Kannon is the Bodhisattva of compassion. So if you would like to extend compassion to a loved one or to yourself, you may light a candle there. And then we have our Medicine Buddha altar here and offering lots of healing energy. So if you need extra healing in your life or extending that healing to a loved one, please offer incense there. And we don't really have to observe the 6-foot social distancing. We end up having a traffic jam in here if we do that. So please just sort of mindfully offer incense and candles, but you can just come right up and do that. And in pairs too, just to keep everything flowing. So here on our altar is Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite wisdom and compassion that guides us in our lives, whether we know it or realize it or not, every day, all day. So we offer gratitude to the infinite wisdom and compassion of the universe as we offer incense here. And we will continue with this beautiful time together, so important for our spiritual life to be together. Okay, thank you very much. Shoshinge. Kimyo Muryo Junyorai
Namu Fukashigi Ko Hozo Bosai Niji Zai Seiji Zai Obusho Token Shobu Jodoin Kokudo Ninnen Shizen Maku Konryu Mujo Shushogan Cho Keu Daiguze Goko Shi Yui Shi Shoju Jusei Myosho Monji Po Fuho Muryo Muhenko Muge Mutai Koen no Shoujo Kangi Chieko Fudan Nanshi Mushoko Chonichi ga Kosho Jinsei Isai Gunjo Mukosho Hongan Yogo Shoujo Go Shishin Shinyo Gannin Joto Gakusho Dai Neihan Hishi Metno Ganjoju Nyorai Shoi Koshusei Yui Sei Mida Hongan Kai Gojoku Akuji Gunjo Kai Oshin Nyorai Nyo Jingon No Ichinen Kiai Shin Fudan Bon no Tokunei Han Bonsho Gyakuho Sai Nu Nyoshu Shinu Kai Chimi Seishu Shin Kojo Shogo Ino Suiha Mumyo An Tonnai Shinzo Shiun Mu Jofu Shinjin Shinjin Ten 陰陽に古風雲無雲無資源妙無安逆心謙虚大狂気即応超税合悪臭異彩全幕本部人門心如来偶税願文願広大小芸者税人名踏んだりけ弥陀部本元年部邪見行魔な主修上信行十字人に南主指南昔インド祭天子論下中華自治域史こそ現代諸公聖書位妙如来本税大き釈迦如来ヨガ戦一種五妙難天軸流々大自主と聖実の財派無権先税大乗無情報召喚議事小安楽賢治難行六六信行異行指導楽億年弥陀部本願次年即時入上唯の上昇如来語王法大悲偶税音賢人菩薩増論世奇妙無下公如来永寿たら謙信寺高専王朝大聖願高有本願力栄光移動群上昇維新絹空毒大崩壊越脈入大永寿宗特使蓮華造世界即昇進用法昇進有望の人間人数入所自音自王芸本自動乱両天地上高乱小菩薩来三蔵如始十上教本性専用気楽法天人菩薩論中下報道因果見世願大芸霊光有他力少女死因唯信人惑前本部新人法承知承知即涅槃非死無量光明道小宇宙上開復系同社継承道難所唯妙浄土かつぬ万全自力変言宗円満特合感染症三風三神軽音言増魔法明同意因異生造悪地偶税四安妖怪小妙化
全道独妙部所意
公愛上三陽逆悪光明明後家二年開入本願大智慧行者小樹金剛心狂気一年総合用意大東逆三人即小法小四上楽現進公開一大教延期安養可二祭先祖出身反先人法系二道小弁流国中悪人唯小部外欲在に聖集中煩悩証言水不見大悲無見上昇が本次元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦弱本願具悪性現来生じ伝伝芸形式義上異生死即入弱上無意楽一心人の入空教大自主使徒 常在無変極辱悪同族自主愚道心唯過信しこそせ
ナムアミダブ
ナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナム
ミダジョブのこの方は
今に自己をたまえりほしのこうりえんきわもなくせのもみょうを照らすなりナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナムアミダブナム
ゲダの降臨きはもなし
幸福かむるものはみなむを離ると述べたもおう平等確に奇妙せよナムはアミダブナムはアミダブナムはアミダブ ナムアアミダアムナアムアミダアムナムアアミダブナアアムアミダアムナム
少女公明並びなし
ルシコウのゆえなればいさいのご受けものぞこり犬ひきょえを奇妙せよ
栄光何にしくどく
平等聖祭と菩提心お嬢はあんらほ
ナマンダブ
ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブWe would like to invite any children to the Children's Dharma School. They can follow Reverend Shelley downstairs to Aroma Hall. Parents are welcome too. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a beautiful fall morning. It really is. The Buddha's teaching on being in nature. 3 sutras. First, the Arana Sutra, the wilderness. Thus I have heard, at one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi, at the Jeta Grove in Anapandica's monastery. When night was passing, a certain Devi, a goddess, appeared in the Jeta Grove, lighting up the whole grove with surpassing beauty. She approached the Buddha in meditation. Having drawn near and bowed down, she sat to one side. Sitting there, the luminous Devi said, "Those of your students living in nature, peaceful and calm, of pure life, eating but one meal a day, how is it they appear so radiant?" The Buddha replied, "Fools are weathered like a tender reed cut down by their longing for the future, by sorrowing over what has passed. Students contemplating in the forest do not sorrow for what is past and without longing for the future. The present is sufficient." And so they experience radiance. And now, the Jina Sutra, the old one. Thus I have heard, on one occasion, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha at the Bamboo Grove Monastery in a place called Squirrel's Sanctuary. Then Venerable Mahakassapa sat quietly by the Buddha. After a long time in silence, the Buddha said, "You are now old, Kassapa, and you still wear robes made of heavy, cast-off rags. You still eat what the forest offers. You live in nature. After so long, you may now wear fresh robes donated by householders. You may eat invitational meals and live near me in the monastery." Kassapa replied, "Dear teacher, for a long time I have lived in nature and have extolled living in nature. I have received what nature offers. I have lived simply and praised simplicity. Dharma study, and I have been persistent in my Dharma study, and I praise persistence. But, Kassapa, what compelling reason do you see for your long time living in nature and praising life in nature?" "Dear teacher, I see 2 compelling reasons. There, I can abide in deep mindfulness and find pleasant abiding for myself in this moment, the here and now. I feel sympathy for later generations. Perhaps later generations will take my dwelling in the forest as an example. They will think, it seems that students of the Buddha and those who awakened after him abided in nature, received what it offered, lived simply, modestly, content, solitary, and unentangled. This aided them in sustained study of the Dharma. Good, Kasapa. Very good. You are one who practices for the happiness of many out of compassion for the world, for the welfare, benefit, and happiness of all beings. So, continue wearing your old robes, receive what nature gives, and live in nature for the sake of all. And last, the Aranika Sutra, a wilderness dweller. Thus have I heard, at one time the Buddha was journeying through the Mala forest together with a small group of students. He paused and said, "Who is not fit to stay isolated in nature? Those who have any of these four qualities, those preoccupied with thoughts of sensuality, with thoughts of ill will, with thoughts of harmfulness, or a person of weak discernment, dull senses, unable to see. Endowed with any of these four qualities, a student is not fit to stay in the forest dwellings. Who is suited to stay isolated in nature? Those occupied with thoughts of letting go, with thoughts of goodwill, with thoughts of non-harming, a discerning person, insightful and engaged. Endowed with these four qualities, a student is fit to stay in the forest. We will now have a few moments of meditation accompanied by music.
Ah, good morning. Welcome again. You're all welcome in this Buddhist temple. We are here for new folks who are seeking a spiritual home that resonates for them, and we are here for longtime members. So we share the Dharma together. Reverend Shelley and I were on retreat since we last talked here. That's what you call it when religious people take a vacation. But we don't really shift gears so much. We've committed so much to being, I feel as though my voice is ringing in a confusing and distracting way, so I will pause while the knobs are adjusted. A retreat is a time to consider the Dharma for me, and it's good to, wow, that's even more so, a time to consider, perhaps if I spoke more loudly and we turned the knob down, that would work. I'm just saying. Okay, I will project my voice. Was I talking about retreats? I think I was. A time to consider the Dharma. It's good to occasionally simplify and disconnect from busy life. We limited our interactions and conversation. We didn't drive a car. We walked everywhere. We limited how far afield that we moved. We awoke with the dawn and a little dove that lived outside the window, who would coo exactly 20 minutes before the sunrise. And then we would contemplate the setting sun every day. So we each, in our own way, considered our place in the world for hours. I am an active person. So I need to have the rhythms of moving meditation to bring mindfulness. I spent hours each day observing nature unfold in great detail, to no other purpose than to observe. I titled this talk, Floating on the Ocean of the Vow. I meant that wherever we go, there is a force of infinite life and infinite wisdom that carries us along. It floats us like a raft or a ship. This fluid that we call life, we could easily drown in it, but we float on top. This is due mostly to the vow. I say the vow, I am referring to the great vows of Amida Buddha, 48 profound vows made 12 kalpas ago, eons ago. Vows made from deep insight into the limitations of most sentient beings. Vows made to ensure that all beings ultimately experience fundamental freedom, enlightenment in Buddhism. The most important vow is the 18th vow, which goes something like this. He vowed to ensure birth in my Buddha field of all sentient beings in the 10 quarters, who with sincere mind entrust themselves, aspire to be born in my Buddha land, and say the Nembutsu perhaps even 10 times. Amida is a wise and compassionate teacher. His promise is real and profound. Experiencing this feeling of deep and abiding confidence gives a measure of hope and a warm feeling of gratitude. As I floated there, observing and just being, a sense of peace was present. I'm always intrigued at how Shinran Shonin, the founder of our lineage mentioned in their introduction, used the word jinen. And we translate it as naturalness, but that's a difficult concept to touch. So I think he meant experiencing the natural unfolding and fundamental interconnections that we share with all being. Dynamic connectedness, maybe? When we see with naturalness, we feel at peace inside, and we see everything connected outside. Maybe those things go together. Maybe they're the same thing seen with different eyes. Being integral to all that is, all this wonderfulness, is fantastic. To feel separate is suffering. There is a warm emotional quality that comes from feeling the fundamental connection with the natural unfolding of everything. We are of a kind, you and I, and we can feel this in nature. When we are quiet and mindful, we can experience Jinen. In those hours of contemplation of the floating world, I felt that connection. We feel connection when someone else feels joy. We feel joy too. This is called mudita, sympathetic joy. Joy arises in us when we see their smile. It is natural and spontaneous. Also, when another is suffering, we too suffer. It is troubling to see. Troubled by the suffering of ourselves and others, the self-powered self looks to find causes. Why is this happening to me? We vainly search the particular situations of particular beings in particular lives, rather than focusing on a shift of view that would void suffering altogether. The 18th century priest Ryokan wrote a poem about Amida Buddha expressing this feeling. When I think about the misery of those in the world, their sadness becomes mine. If only my robe were wide enough to gather up all the suffering people in this floating world. Nothing makes me more happy than Amida Buddha's vow to save everyone. Realizing that we and others, fellow beings, are bonded by an inseparable togetherness of this natural unfolding, we can look for a resolution to misery that will include everyone. The answer is the 18th vow, Amida Buddha's promise to bring all beings to oneness, clarity, and understanding, to enlightenment. The vow embraces all beings just as they are, like Ryokan's robe. Jinen gathers up everyone and embraces them. The great vow offers a practical path to get there, the Nembutsu, Namu Amida Butsu. An easy practice for anyone to transform, to be transformed. We can experience Jinen, naturalness, when we listen deeply. This is the great thing about Shin Buddhism. It comes from the truth of interdependent co-arising. I first learned interdependent co-arising in Pali, so the word is paticcisamuppada, and I just love that word. Interrelatedness or interdependence points to the core insight of all Mahayana Buddhism, emptiness. As I watched the intricacies of nature for hours on end, a palpable sense that it is all connected came to me. Objects and animals and plants all teeming with consciousness. The rocks are so very good at being rocks. Nothing can do plant like a plant. And the busy little animals naturally moving through their animated little lives. What a marvel of being. Spontaneous, in and of itself. Jinen. Even myself floating there, observing, sometimes coming down close to see the details, an integral part of the unfolding. In Jinen, the dynamic quality of emptiness is present. Maybe that's what Jinen is the dynamism of emptiness. Emptiness says nothing exists separate from all other things in the universe. Each of us only lives by relying on the support of others, of everything. No matter how far we trace the web of interconnections, there is always more and more and more interconnection. Infinite and total interconnection. That only a Buddha can really perceive to its full extent. Only when we listen deeply do our eyes open to this naturalness of Jinen. When we withhold our working and doing and just observe what is always there. In Buddhism, they say that wrapping your mind around the totality of being triggers Buddhahood. Or is that just what Buddhahood itself is? Maybe so. In my everyday deluded mind, I seem to be one individual person struggling in the world against others. But, in fact, from the Buddha's view, there is no separation between self and other. We traditionally call this emptiness, because we are empty of any separate self-existence. Jinen is the dynamic unfolding of emptiness. Shin Buddhism stresses positive connection, our kinship with all being. The saving power of Amida Buddha acts to rescue and support us without our self intervening. Other power acts spontaneously of itself. Jinen. As I floated there for hours on end, it was easy to imagine no separation between self and other. Life exists only because of others and what is beyond the limits of me. Other power sustains my entire existence. We say there is no self, but we might also say that we are everything. In Pure Land Buddhism, we seek to be born together with all beings in the Pure Land, with emphasis on togetherness. We move toward the common destination of loving and nurturing for all sentient beings. In this life, we have separations and disputes with other people, clashing of the deluded egos. This is a fact of life in the floating world, something that we can't really overcome with this birth. From insight, we can see that even with these imperfections, we are surely embraced by great compassion. Even though we are not able to get along now, our path leads to reconciliation and togetherness, naturally, spontaneously, inexorably, like a tide. In the Tani show we read last year in Dharma Book Group, Shinran expressed this so well. He said, "There is no separation between self and other, and my life exists only because of others. It is the power of others, the power beyond myself, that sustains my entire existence." When we orient ourselves in self-power, we might look with pity toward other beings. We could look down on them. But in Shinran's view, we want to be born together with other beings into peace and togetherness, the Pure Land, immediately to return and help so that no one is ever left alone. This is the Gensho Eiko, going and returning. Pure Land compassion keeps the practicer in constant relationship with everything, naturally. We may try to become pure or good enough to qualify to enter a heaven or achieve Buddhahood. But life is hard, and we are weak. Few real people can measure up to the standards set by religions. Worse yet, if we do manage to make some progress, we feel good about what we've done. We give ourselves a little pat on the back. And that immediately morphs into an obstacle. The ego inflates at the slightest spiritual progress and separates us from fellowship with ordinary people. We all experience this. In the quest to be spiritually good, we feed the shark of self more food, and he grows. And we tell ourselves that we are becoming truly spiritual. But if you're really a saint, you have made yourself different from them, so us and them has returned and re-energized. This is a failure, not an achievement. Instead, Shinran says, no working is working. Let life unfold in its perfect form without intervening. Jinen. In Buddhism, we talk about reaching the other shore. Often, we have 2 entire holidays for this each year. Normal holidays occur once a year, but our holiday for the other shore happens twice a year, which is kind of special, actually. So, in this process of reaching the other shore, maybe we swim over there on our own strength, or to freedom, to nirvana, to Buddhahood. That's what the other shore is. But in our Shin Buddhist tradition, we don't have to swim ourselves all the way across the vast ocean of delusion. Instead, the other shore is spontaneously embracing us over here through naturalness. In his master treatise, the Kyogo Shinsho, Shinran says, there has never been any separation. Amida's vast vow always, of itself, grasps and holds beings. This is Jinen, the spontaneous way of its working. When we relax in gratitude and simply trust, transformation happens. Transformation just happens. In a letter to a follower, Shinran pointed to the effect of prolonged deep gratitude. Signs of long years of saying the Nembutsu and aspiring for Pure Land birth are seen in the change of heart. That heart that had been bad, and in the change of the heart that had been bad, and in the deep warmth for friends and fellow practicers. Deep warmth for others is the sign of Nembutsu bearing fruit in your life. The true and real Nembutsu practice does not pray for salvation or make good karma or elevate the mind or vainly seek merit. Instead, when we realize gratitude for how we benefit just as we are, and joy and humility arise from within. And the Nembutsu naturally comes to our lips. The Nembutsu is a grateful expression of thanksgiving for nature unfolding, for Jinen. The end has already been accomplished for us, and our part is simply to relax and trust and say, thank you, Namu Amida Butsu. Thank you for the natural unfolding of this Jinen. Shinran ends one letter on Jinen with this. After we have realized this, we should not be forever talking about Jinen. If we continuously discuss Jinen, the truth that no working is true working will again become a problem of working. It's a matter of inconceivable Buddha wisdom. What is to say, don't think about it too much. Just gently observe. This view of naturalness is peaceful. It is very subtle and very powerful. Observation of the power of emptiness. When we awaken to our togetherness with others and everything, our experience gives rise to gratitude, gives rise to peace inside us. A gratitude expressed through spontaneous natural Nembutsu. We are at our best when we are moved by the Dharma, and the emotional feelings of deep interconnection with others expands the circle of me to encompass all beings in the 10 directions. We are all floating on this vast ocean of Amida Buddha's vow. It is for our sake, for the sake of beings who suffer from self-mindedness. Take some time today and pause. Try to observe Jinen unfolding, and you will know what I mean. Let us join together in the great loving kindness of the universe. We will say this verbally. Say after me. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Namandaps, 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 namandaps. Thank you. We usually finish our service with the Reno Buddhist Center theme song, which was selected by Reverend Alicia from her favorite movie, How the West Was Won. So we will do that now. It is on page 49 of the service book, I think. If you would stand, we can sing it together. Masako will play the piano for us. Away, away, come away. Thank you. As everybody knows, the actual end of the service is the announcements. So I will point your attention to many important announcements that are on the side here. You can read them yourself. I do have to point out that there are tea and treats downstairs, so we go through these doors and circle around the stairs to Haroma Hall, and you can go there and have a little conversation. We will also have Newcomers Circle back up here, so it's kind of a going and coming. That's the Gensho Eiko. That's a Pure Land Buddhist joke because it refers to going to the Pure Land and coming back. But anyway, let's go. We can get a treat and then come back. If you're new, please do gather for the Newcomers Circle. George Killeran there with his hand up. He will lead that and set a circle of chairs and a sign and things for people to gather at. And you can interact and ask questions. We will not be playing Stump the Priest today because I'm a little bit tired from my jet lag. So, no, I'm just kidding. We will play Stump the Priest today. The most important announcement, I'm only reading half the announcements, is that we will have our RBC Thanksgiving potluck dinner that you can join us and other Sangha members for everybody bring something, their favorite, in Haroma Hall on Thanksgiving evening from 4 to 6. Please RSVP to the office admin at Reno Buddhist Center if you'd like to come. Often there are people who don't have family in town and everything. It's nice to gather together in that way. So those are the announcements. Yes.